Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now this important chart is breaking to the downside, which is telling us what might be about to happen to Bitcoin next. All of that and more in this video, so make sure you're watching all the way to the end so that you're not missing out on any of this important information. And just before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like down below, and if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. But with all of that out of the way, let's get straight to what this video is about. So right here, we're on the Bitcoin to US dollar chart on the weekly time frame, and what we have here is the 55-week SMA. This is an important moving average for Bitcoin because of two reasons. First of all, 55 is a Fibonacci number, and Bitcoin likes to respect Fibonacci numbers. And the second reason, but really it should be the main reason, is just looking at previous price action to see what has happened around this moving average. And you can see that previously Bitcoin has heavily respected this exact moving average time and time again. And just zooming in a little bit closer, you can see that we've just had a weekly candle close as we are starting a new week. And so last week's Bitcoin candle closed above the 55-week SMA, which is obviously good to see because technically speaking, we only really break below this moving average if we see a major weekly candle close below this moving average, which right now we have not seen, at least at the time of filming this video, and the next weekly candle close is still around a week from now. And when it comes to that weekly candle close, we need to hold above this level, coming in at around 47,000 approximately. Now zooming in just by a little bit into the 3-day time frame for Bitcoin, this is still looking at a few years worth of price action. And what we have here is a lot of similarities between the current price action and this previous price action. So first of all, looking at the previous price action, which was during 2019 and 2020, basically we saw a lot of sideways price action with some volatile moves to the downside and some volatile moves to the upside, similar to what we saw last year in 2021. But then when you're looking at the 2020 price action, of course, we had that March 2020 capitulation, which was one of the biggest and fastest crashes in Bitcoin's history. And so that took Bitcoin a couple months until we really recovered after that crash, and then Bitcoin began to form some higher lows on the chart and was beginning to form what was resembling a head and shoulders pattern. And a lot of people looking at the Bitcoin chart back then were talking about this potential head and shoulders pattern and Bitcoin crashing down to much lower prices. And in fact, if I'm just zooming into the 2020 price action, you can see that that right shoulder was only around 2 weeks in length compared to the left shoulder, which was around 2 months in length. And now looking at the current Bitcoin price action on the same time frame, and I'm sure you can now see how similar this price action is to the 2020 price action. For example, the right shoulder in the recent price action here is around 2 weeks in length, and the left shoulder was around 2 months in length, the exact same as what we were just talking about in that 2020 price action. And even when you're looking in the price oscillators, for example, in the 3-day RSI for Bitcoin, what we have here is some higher highs both times here and lower lows both times here. So first of all, the higher highs in the RSI are not diverging from the price because we also saw higher highs in the price action both times here, but because the Bitcoin price was forming higher lows both times here while the RSI was forming lower lows, that is what's known as a hidden bullish divergence, which is of course, as the name suggests, bullish for the Bitcoin price. Now, it's important to mention that nothing in these markets is guaranteed, but if we were to take anything away from this previous price action, we could expect some sort of bullish trend for Bitcoin to begin within the next few months. And just before we get into this important chart, we still can't forget about this bump and run reversal pattern, which is technically already formed. And right now we have seen one retest of this previous line of resistance, flipping it into new support. And so basically Bitcoin needs to see a little bit more of a bounce here to the upside and preferably break above this high just here, putting in a new higher high on the daily time frame. If that happens, then that would fast track the recovery back to the upside. But if not, we could play out a little bit of a longer game here in this Wyckoff accumulation on the 12-hour time frame. Now, by a longer game, this Wyckoff accumulation still suggests a recovery sometime in possibly the second half of January or early February. Now, it's important to mention that these grayed out candles should not be taken as an exact prediction, and personally I'm just using this as a possible guideline for the Bitcoin price over the next few weeks, perhaps over the next 1 to 2 months, just to show us in the scenario that we do come back down towards these lows coming in at around 45,000 approximately. That is actually perfectly okay according to this Wyckoff accumulation. As long as we don't really break below around 40,000, then technically Bitcoin can still play out a recovery back to the upside within the next 1 to 2 months, and that's been pretty conservative. The only way that would change is basically if Bitcoin breaks below the September low, coming in closer towards 39.5k, then in that case we'll be looking much more bearish, but right now that remains to be seen. Not to mention there's still a lot of Bitcoin leaving exchanges right now. I've just hidden my face cam so you can see the data behind me, but basically the black line here is the Bitcoin price on the daily time frame, and the purple line just here is the total amount of Bitcoin sitting on exchanges. And you can see here that really over the past half a year, the total amount of Bitcoin on exchanges has been dropping to the downside, meaning that a lot of big players are withdrawing their Bitcoin from exchanges. And how do we know it's big players? Well, the amounts of Bitcoin that we're talking about here are billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. So obviously that's not just you and me. These are either wealthy individuals or institutions, most likely accumulating Bitcoin and moving it off exchanges. So basically this entire time period just here over the past few months has been a great reaccumulation of Bitcoin before we possibly begin the next major phase of the bull market. Because Bitcoin usually only flips extremely bearish once a lot of Bitcoin gets deposited back onto exchanges, because that means the big players are wanting to sell that Bitcoin if they're moving it to exchanges, like what we saw leading up to the May 2021 crash. But what we're seeing right now is suggesting that we still have a way to go for the bull market. And now taking a look at this important chart, this is actually the US dollar index on the daily time frame. And so basically this chart just shows us the strength of the US dollar. So if this US dollar index is moving to the upside, then that is usually more of a bearish signal for Bitcoin against the US dollar than a bullish one. And then of course, if the US dollar is dropping in value, that is bullish for the Bitcoin price in US dollar terms. So for a while here in the middle of November heading into December, the US dollar currency index was actually looking really strong here. We're flipping this previous point of resistance into new support, and this has been one of the major factors why Bitcoin has been bearish recently, and also why the stock market experienced a bit of a pullback over the past 1 month approximately. But you can see that right now the US dollar currency index is breaking back below this important line of supports right here, coming in at approximately 96. And so if we see a little bit more follow through here with the US dollar continuing to drop, then as I just explained, that would be bullish for the Bitcoin price against the US dollar, and that would really help Bitcoin on its recovery. And I thought I should definitely mention this piece of Bitcoin news today, because today is Bitcoin's 13th birthday. That is right, 13 years ago today, Satoshi mined the Genesis block, the first ever Bitcoin block on the Bitcoin blockchain. And obviously Bitcoin has achieved a lot of major milestones over the past 13 years. So no matter what the Bitcoin price is doing today, this will always be an awesome day to celebrate. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video or got something valuable out of it, please make sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so that you're not missing out on any of these future updates. And before you click off, you might as well check out one of these uploads if you haven't already, because these videos just here can potentially help you make a lot more money in the crypto markets. But anyway, that is it for this update. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.